All right, everyone. Just momentarily, I'm just gonna make sure that audio and everything's coming through, and then I'm gonna start the stream. Just give me 1 second. It looks like there's a little bit of buffering. All right. Ashley said sounds good, so I am going to jump into it. Hopefully, there's not a ton of buffering or anything like that. It looks like there is on my end. I don't know if it's coming through like that. If someone could let me know in the chat. Otherwise, I'm gonna get going. It says my stream health is poor. Don't love that. Don't love that. All right. So, we're going to kick everything off today. I just got to fix my show titles here because it looks like I'm starting at the end. But to begin, we are going to be talking about, obviously, Liverpool played today a preseason friendly against AC Milan where we lost. I've seen so many people talking about this. Liverpool didn't play their best, particular players, whether they were existing or recent transfers, haven't been didn't play their best today. I think far too often people take into consideration preseason games for how the team is actually going to perform in the future. So, we'll have to wait and see. I don't put preseason games, I don't hold them to that high of a standard just due to the fact that it's preseason and it's an opportunity for Slot and the players to kind of get a little bit more experience and some younger players, get some fitness for some existing players and stuff like that. I'm really not that concerned with Liverpool at this time. I think any issues we had today, I hope will be sorted out 2 weeks from now when the game or when the season begins. But we'll have to wait and see. I mean, one of the most frustrating things for me is how often people put a far too of an emphasis on preseason games. It's preseason, right? We all know what this is. Preseason games don't really mean anything. It's if we were going to take preseason for all of these teams, so many. I saw Newcastle lost 4-0 to Celtic in a preseason game. I don't expect that to be the level that Newcastle will play at in the upcoming season. But obviously, we're gonna have to just wait and see. Same thing with Liverpool. I think. You look at a result like how we lost to AC Milan today. I think that is more beneficial to the likes or more of a something that AC Milan should take away from it rather than Liverpool. I don't think it's that big of a deal for Liverpool to have lost today. But obviously there's some big things that came out in the post match press conference from Arne Slot. Sorry, I just pulled this up just to make sure on YouTube I'm coming in good. It looks like it's buffering a little bit on YouTube. Not too much, but just a little bit. I don't love that, but I'm not going to try to mess around with it too much. Obviously, there was a couple things Arne Slot came out and said in the post-match press conference, which has had a couple fans concerned. Especially when it comes down to the future of one of our key players. But we're gonna have to wait and see. I think that I'm going to talk about the future of Luis Diaz, further into the stream, further into the show, and what that could actually mean for Liverpool. How that kind of is representative of some of the transfers that we've made over the past couple of months. But when it comes down to the game today, I can't even begin to describe to you guys how little I'm concerned with a loss in a preseason friendly. It's not that big of a deal. It happens every season that whether it's Liverpool fans, rival fans, whoever, when we do well in a preseason game, our own fans obviously seem like they take that far too much into consideration. But then when we don't play well, it feels as though our rival fans feel as though it's the downfall of Liverpool Football Club. I will judge how the players perform 2 weeks from now, less than 2 weeks from now, at the beginning of the Premier League season. That just is what it is. I'm not gonna talk too much about something that I don't think is really that important. We move on. Alexander Isak. I covered this a little bit on my TikTok page yesterday. I love Liverpool fans, but some of us are just absolutely annoying, if I'm going to be entirely honest with you. I think, for whatever reason, I don't know if it's newer fans. I don't know exactly what it is, but they drive me insane when you make a honest and realistic take on a transfer, the state of the club, and they can't. I don't know. Alexander Isak. Yeah, it got reported this week that, number one, I think, thanks, Woods. I appreciate it, man. I think Alexander Isak, it got reported earlier this week that he was not traveling with Newcastle to their preseason friendlies. And if it was just that, if there wasn't rumors going around in the media of the likes of Liverpool and Saudi Arabia coming in for him, I don't think it would have been that big of a deal. Sometimes these guys pick up injuries and people like to act as though it's the biggest deal that they're not going to be traveling with the team or performing in preseason when preseason literally doesn't mean anything. I think it's a little ridiculous, but if it wasn't for those rumors going around, I think it wouldn't have been talked about. And then later into the week, it got reported that Alexander Isak was going to be seeking a potential move from Liverpool or from Newcastle, or at least he's going to explore his options in the transfer window. I think he would be an idiot not to do that, but that's neither here nor there, because unfortunately Newcastle, look, I think Newcastle fans and fans in general just don't understand the pull that the big six clubs in the Premier League have. It might not be fair, people might not like it, but it's the state of the world. Liverpool are coming off winning a Premier League, and they are one of the most attractive teams in England and in Europe in general in terms of future success. And yeah, I think the interesting part about this is we just signed Ekitike, who plays as a center forward. Now we're trying to sign Alexander Isak, who also is a very similar playing style as Ekitike. 25 years old, or I think Ekitike's 23 or 24, maybe even 22. He's a young player. And going back to the post I made on TikTok and people being all up in arms about it, people need to stop. What I said was, if Alexander Isak doesn't come to Liverpool, I can't stand him, because at this point we've just been led on for weeks, months at this point to think that there's a chance he'll be coming to Liverpool and there's an opportunity for him at the club in the future. And unfortunately, at this point, it's culminated to the fact that we actually believe he's going to come to the club. I thoroughly believe Isak will be coming to Liverpool this transfer window, and if he doesn't, I cannot stand him, because everything that's been reported into the media has been that Isak is coming to Liverpool, and yeah, if he doesn't, I can't stand him, because it's just, at first he wasn't for sale, and then we go out and Newcastle make a move for Ekitike, or apparently they say publicly that they want to go in for Ekitike, and we swoop in, steal Ekitike from Newcastle. Then it's reported now that that Alexander Isak, after we sign Ekitike, still wants to leave Newcastle, and we're going to come in and try to steal him away from Newcastle. If we don't sign this guy, I can't stand him, because he's done everything in his power to make Liverpool fans, Liverpool Football Club, just even fans in general, think that he is going to be coming in to Liverpool this transfer window. I think it's and when I put that out on TikTok, all I saw was people saying, if he doesn't come, it's because Newcastle have held him hostage. No, that's not how this works. Let's not be stupid at this point. If he doesn't come to Liverpool, it's because he's chose to go elsewhere. He's leaving Newcastle this summer transfer window. That is, at this point, in my opinion, signed, sealed, delivered. He's going to be leaving Newcastle. For a while there, I'll be honest, I thought that he was going to be staying, but at this point, I'm convinced he's leaving. So if he's not going to stay at Newcastle and he is going to leave, if he doesn't go to Liverpool, I can't stand the guy. I can't. Because everything that has been pushed thus far has been that Alexander Isak will be leaving Newcastle to come to Liverpool. Now, on the flip side of things, if he comes to Liverpool, I absolutely adore this. Because this, for me, is going to be the transfer that's really going to push us over the top. And I think that if Alexander Isak comes to Liverpool, we're arguably one of the best clubs in the world. I think you can't argue against PSG because of how good they were in the Champions League this year. A lot of quality in that team. Real Madrid looked not great, in my personal opinion. That might be a little bit of a bold take, but I don't think that Real have looked fantastic. I think Barcelona, obviously, have looked great, but will be the unanimous best team in England at that point. So for me, I think he's really holding in his grasp, in the balance, the fact that Liverpool could be one of the best clubs in England, the best club in England, one of the best clubs in Europe. I wish I could just report more on this situation with this guy, but it really just comes down to what he wants to do in his for his future, and we'll have to wait and see. Because at this point, the idea that Newcastle are holding Alexander Isak hostage, I think that was kind of the case for a little bit, but that's just not how it works in European football. You don't just get held hostage. If he wants to leave, he will leave the club. I expect that to happen. But we'll just have to wait and see. And obviously, I hope he comes to Liverpool. I'll be absolutely just beyond happy if he comes to Liverpool. But I can't help but say that the whole situation hasn't been a little tiring. Because we also need a center back. I love that we're strengthening going forward, but we need a center back. Well, losing Jarell Quansah, I don't think Quansah was that great. I think it was a really, really good transfer on our part to ship him off to Leverkusen. But we need to bring in another center back. So hopefully we can do that. We'll just have to wait and see. I really At this point, until we get to Here We Go from Fabrizio Romano, I think the Alexander Isak storyline or transfer saga has been completely tiring, and I'm getting to the point where I'm just kind of, I'll be honest, just a little sick and tired of it. So that's it on that. If anyone has anything to contribute, leave it down below in the chat. I can circle back to it. But arguably a bigger news story today is the fact that Luis Diaz could potentially be leaving Liverpool this transfer window. Following our game today where we lost to AC Milan, Arne Slot came out and said that the involvement of Luis Diaz was simply down to the fact that his future at the club remains unknown at this point. I can't help but feel like it's unfortunate because it's a player that I like, a player that a lot of Liverpool fans really, really like. So, at a certain point, I do think there's really nothing to be said about his time at Liverpool. I think it's been extremely successful. I look at the Luis Diaz situation like wish you the best of luck. It's unfortunate because he's a player that I like. A lot of Liverpool fans obviously like a lot as well, but I think if we're going to be moving for Alexander Isak, which it seems like we're going to be, also making a move in for bringing in Ekitike, bringing in Alexander Isak, including Luis Diaz, when it seems like we have a lot of options to play at that left wing position, I think will be tough. Newcastle will not sell Isak until they get a striker in first. I believe that's the case, but it's been reported that they're going in for Benjamin Sesko. So I think that to me is the big caveat, LFC 20, that I think for why Isak will be gone is the fact that it's been reported that they've made a real push to bring in Benjamin Sesko to Newcastle. Once I saw that, I thought to myself, well, it's probably done at this point. Now, honestly and truthfully, I think that once the report came out that Sesko and Newcastle have kind of touched bases, and that's who they want to bring in, for me, that really, really, really showed that the likelihood that Isak stays is not. And now, granted, you're right. They could bring in Sesko, and then Isak leaves. But I think what will probably happen is that they've agreed to most terms with Sesko, and then Isak is sold, and they complete the signing of Sesko. But the fact that they've already started looking for another striker, to me, is they kind of showed their hand that they're willing to get rid of Isak. I think the unfortunate reality with Luis Diaz leaving is it's a player. He's 28, I believe, 27, 28 years old. Definitely not that old, but when you get to that age, you start to wonder, especially when you're a winger, and not everyone's Mo Salah, not everyone's Cristiano Ronaldo. Unfortunately, when you get to that age, people start to question the longevity that you're going to be having at the top flight. And I think, look, the reality of the situation is we have the likes of Florian Wirtz, who could play off of the left. We have Cody Gakpo, who, while we tried to play him down the middle, is a complete out-and-out right left winger at this point. We've brought in Ekitike, who, to my understanding, can play out on the left. I know his preferred position is down the middle, and I think that Liverpool might try to play him down the middle at certain points. But from what I've heard, he can play off of the left. So, you throw in Luis Diaz there, that's 4 players who can play left wing. And I wonder, my theory behind it is with these transfers that Liverpool have brought in, I wonder if it's gotten to a point where the likes of Arne Slot has told Luis Diaz, you can't be guaranteed first team football week in, week out. That's my honest opinion. I don't think that with Wirtz, Ekitike, Cody Gakpo, I don't think that Luis Diaz can definitely be guaranteed first team football starting week in, week out. And that is why a club like Bayern Munich, who, he's still going to be playing at the top level, and there's still a chance, or there's still a likelihood that he could start week in, week out for Munich. I think that probably made it a little bit more of a I don't want to say easy decision, but a decision that, Diaz may have wanted to leave. And I look at him, it's a weird one, because as we're strengthening our front three, Luis Diaz is getting older, and you see the fact that we could get the likes of 70 to 80 million for him. I start to think, it's been a great run. I don't blame him for wanting to leave, especially if the likelihood he can start can come into question. It's, wish him the best. I hope he performs well in Germany if he does end up going to Germany. And there's, God bless. I have no issues with the likes of Luis Diaz. I always thought the likelihood would be that he would go to Spain. He's been linked with Barcelona, and I've talked about it multiple times that he's a player who year in, year out, there's always been transfer rumors with him. But when Arne Slot comes out and says that because his future is in doubt, that's why he didn't make a feature with the team, I think the writing's on the wall. LFC 20 said, I think we get Rodrigo to replace Diaz. That one for me has been an interesting one, LFC 20, because I do agree. But if we're bringing in Alexander Isak as well, and then we bring in Rodrigo, that's so many options in that front three. The Rodrigo rumor is another one that's been swirling around for quite some time. How likely it is for him to leave Real Madrid, come to Liverpool, we'll have to wait and see. I wouldn't be completely surprised, but I want to see the development of that rumor continue. I think it's very similar to the Luis Diaz rumor in the sense that when it initially started to come out that Bayern Munich were interested in him, I thought to myself, okay, let's wait and see how much reality this there, or how much this is actually real. But well, I don't know. If I'm being honest, I don't think Rodrigo comes to Liverpool. I think he's would be a shit ton of money to go get Isak and Rodrigo. Yeah, I kind of agree, Woods. I don't think if we sell Luis Diaz, we're probably going to get upwards of 80 million for him. But I don't see Real letting go of Rodrigo for less than 100 million. So then let's call it a 20 million loss to replace Luis Diaz with Rodrigo. And then we're probably going to have to spend 150 million on Isak. You're talking upwards of 170 million total to bring in those two players. I don't think we're going to get Rodrigo. I think that initially when we signed Ekitike, in my mind I was like, Isak's out the window. I doubt he's going to be coming to Liverpool. But in reality, I think that signing Ekitike meant more that we would be losing Diaz, and that he would be an option as a forward and then off of the left wing. Money wise, feel like it has to be one or the other. Yeah, I agree. Honestly, Woods, I completely agree with that. I think Isak is the more likely option based on the reports that that he'll come in. If he doesn't come in, I do believe Rodrigo would be the option that we'd probably bring in at left wing, or at least look to. But if we don't bring in Isak and we bring in Rodrigo, we're probably going to keep Darwin Nunez at that point. You know, he was another one that was kind of left out of the rotation today in our friendly against AC Milan, and it's been rumored that he's going to be leaving Liverpool for like most of the transfer window. But if you know, I think that realistically, I kind of has started to feel like Darwin would be staying, but then he wasn't featured today, wasn't even on the bench. I haven't seen any reporting of Slot talking about that, only Diaz, but I don't know. I think Darwin is good enough that if he's going to come off of the bench, obviously it seemed as though Napoli were really, really interested in Nunez, but that completely fell through and they said no. I thought it was kind of weird that they would be going for Darwin Nunez, especially how good McTominay did, and I know he played as a striker for Napoli. There's been reports that Saudi's interested in Darwin. I think at that point it just comes down to how much Darwin wants to have a future with Liverpool. Yeah, I haven't heard any rumors of where Darwin would go. Yeah. I think it's Saudi if he's going to go. LFC 20 said, it's been reported that we can get Isak and still spend $200 million and PSR can't touch us. Yeah, I don't think it's a PSR. I'm not concerned with PSR at all when it comes to Liverpool this transfer window, because we didn't spend any money outside of like Chiesa last summer, who really didn't cost us that much. So yeah, I think I'm not really that concerned with PSR necessarily at all. We just won the Prem, right? So we're bringing in money from that. We literally did not spend borderline any money last transfer window, and then that gets rolled over into this transfer window. That's why we're able to spend so much. Also, too, on top of that, right? Like, you know, we spent a lot of money on Verts, 115 million, but the Jeremy Frimpong signing for me is like damn near a wash because we sold Kwanzaa. So, and it was, I think we even made like if we were to compare the two, I think we signed Frimpong for 35. I want to say Kwanzaa was like 40 million. So that's basically a wash at that point, right? Then, like I mentioned, Verts 115 million. We signed Gyokeres, that was like 40 some odd million. So it's like, okay, you know, we're spending a lot of money. Ekitike is the crazy one. Dude, if we sign Isak and Rodrigo, we've spent that has to be some sort of like record of spending in the Prem in a single transfer window. I mean, granted, like, we would definitely, you have to expect, if we sign Rodrigo and Isak, we're selling Nunez and we're selling Nunez and Diaz, which I would expect would probably be 130 million. Then that probably washes out basically Isak. We could probably get Isak for the amount that we would sell Darwin and Diaz for. I don't know. It'll be really, really interesting. I think both of those players' futures are kind of like, you know, kind of, I don't want to say in jeopardy. You know, just probably not going to happen. If we're being real, like, yeah, Diaz seems like he's gone. He's definitely going to be going to Bayern. Yeah, Wood said Napoli were, but then they signed another striker. Yeah, Darwin Nunez in Serie A, I think would play. I think that would do quite well. His style of play, I think he's really good, and I actually think I would be okay. I'm in the minority of a lot of Liverpool fans with Darwin. Now I'm gonna change I'm going to change the next topic that I have here because I was gonna share my screen, but I've been having a little trouble with OBS today. So we're just gonna go Darwin Nunez, and we're just gonna move on to that. My whole thing with Darwin Nunez, right? I am in the minority of Liverpool fans in the sense that I honestly and truthfully would have been okay if we kept Darwin going into the upcoming season. And let me elaborate. I would have been okay with using Darwin off of the bench going into the upcoming season. I do not think that Darwin should start. And if he was going to try to start, if that's what he wanted, I think he would have to compete. He would have to compete, and then at that point, he probably is compete with the likes of Isak or Ekitike. Ekitike is obviously a younger player. I think that would... I don't want to say that would be difficult for him, but I think that would probably, that would be something, an area I feel as though Darwin could compete. Yeah. Well, Woods, Connor Woods in the chat is tripping. I was gonna talk. There was a clip from a podcast that I was gonna play. Woods, that is crazy. Anyway, yeah, no, Darwin Nunez for me. If he was going to have to come off of the bench, for Liverpool, to be honest with you, and I feel as though he should have been okay with that. I don't think, unless it's a Serie A club, I don't think that there are many clubs Liverpool or Darwin Nunez could go to, and it would be an out and outright definite that he is going to be the starting center forward for their club. And that's just based on the performances that he's had. Darwin Nunez, for me, has been a great player coming off of the bench. And to a certain extent, I felt as though Darwin began to be a player that realistically had like a little bit of a Divock Origi sense to it, where, coming off of the bench and he had big goals in injury time, things of that nature, where I felt as though if he was okay with playing that role coming off of the bench, I felt he could really, really have an impact. But for me, it's just gone. The likelihood of him being a starting striker for us is really, really unlikely at this point. We got LFC20 said, we have the money to get both Isak and Rodrigo in the defender this summer, and I think we do it, making it the GOAT of a transfer window. That would be. At the end of the day, dude, if we were to have brought in, let's say, Alexander Isak, Rodrigo, and then on top of that, a Mark Gay, let's just run down those signings, right? Florian Wirtz, Jeremy Frimpong, Gyokeres, Ekitike, Alexander Isak, Rodrigo, and Gahey. Insane. That would be insane. We would have to sell several more players. Not at the back. Like, I think if we were to sign Gahey, I don't think we have to make any changes at the back four. And we need a center back. Arne Slot came out recently and said we need a center back. Gahey has been linked with us on and off throughout the transfer window. And, I wouldn't be surprised if that would be a move that we would sweep in the next week or two and make a signing for Mark Gahey. I also wouldn't be surprised if that didn't happen, but I would like us to do that. Going forward, the future of Ibrahim Konate kind of in the balance. Joe Gomez, I don't think is a viable option to be a starter in the future, but I would love Mark Gahey at Liverpool, and I don't think we would need to make any changes from our center back options if we were to bring him in. Bringing in Isak, I think, would mean Darwin Nunez has to go. Bringing in Rodrigo would mean that Luis Diaz has to go. Luis Diaz already seems like he's leaving. The likelihood that Darwin stays if we actually sign Isak is extremely unlikely. So yeah, I tend to agree with you. Like, That would be the GOAT transfer window of all time. I think there's a couple other players who would probably have to leave. One that really comes to mind for me, to be honest with you, is Harvey Elliott would have to go if we continue making these signings. Not because I think he would have to go for like money purposes. I think he would have to go because it's like, when and where do we fit Harvey Elliott in there? I really, really like him. I think he's a great player, but I think at his age and at his ability, he should be seeking to get regular first team football, and I don't think that Liverpool can definitely offer that if we're to make all of these signings. So we'll have to see. Gomez injured today and gone home. We have to get a defender for sure. He's so injury prone. And he can't. Also, too, on top of that, he makes a ton of mistakes. I like Gomez from the perspective of him coming off the bench, but as a viable option for the future, I don't think that Joe Gomez should be what Liverpool are banking on. I think Guéhi will probably. I think we'll see that probably in the next couple of days, where Guéhi, the rumors of him start going around, and if it's not Mark Guéhi, I think that there's a likelihood that we get another center back, rumor out there that Liverpool are interested in. Who? I don't know. Maybe we can actually get Ibrahima Konate to figure out his contract situation, because that's been pissing me off for quite some time now. But yeah, I think I definitely think we need a defender. That's what's kind of shocking to me about all of these. Is that Robbo going? I'm seeing Allison Sobo posting a story with Robbo. Ooh, let me go see that bad one. That's a really, really interesting one, man. Allison Becker. Let me find his Instagram. He posted a story on Instagram. Let me see. A heart with Robbo. So the Allison Becker one, I can just say, if you look at that on if you look on Instagram, the Allison Becker story is actually a repost from Andy Robertson. So Andy Robertson posted that, and Becker retweeted it. Let me go to Soboslai's Instagram. High five and Robbo. I don't think so. So I actually, they never did like that in Instagram. Yeah, I saw on Twitter that Robertson was trending right before I started the stream. I saw that, and I clicked on it because I was like, whoa, why is Andy Robertson trending? And apparently it was because he told someone where to go in the game. I think he told someone to F off. I actually think that the Andy Robertson thing, so there's been, I saw a report that Slot came out after the game and said he has made a decision on who will be the new vice captain, because it was Trent, but Trent's now gone. So obviously, Virgil is the primary captain, and then we have a vice captain up for grabs. I think it's either going to be Allison, Robertson, or Salah, and I think there's a chance it'll be Robertson. Bringing in Gyokeres means Robertson's not going to be starting that often. So we'll have to see. Unless Liverpool, C15 Rise said, unless Liverpool pay $150 million outright, I can't see it manifesting. Is that with regard to Rodrigo? Let me know. I'd like to know if you're talking about Rodrigo there, C15 Rise, or if you're talking about Alexander Isak. I figured there's a chance, you might be talking about Alexander Isak, So I'll have to wait and see what you say back there. Yeah, bad one. I think I don't think Robertson's going. I think if I was to guess, I would, if I was to give my guesstimate, so to speak, on who I think will be leaving Liverpool, I think that what's his name? Why the Greek Scouser? Why is my head drawing a blank here? So annoying. Oh my gosh. Tsimikas will probably be leaving because there's no reason that we should have 3 left back options. I think that the likelihood realistically is that we will sell Tsimikas, keep Robertson. I think that Gyokeres will probably be a more likely first team option for us, with maybe Andy Robertson playing in some domestic cup games, Europe even. I can see him, if we have a Champions League game against, I don't want to say a lesser opponent, but maybe an opponent that we don't need, our all of our starters playing. I do think that, there's a chance Andy Robertson would play in those games. But I think Tsimikas could go. But, like, early in the transfer window, there was a report that Andy Robertson was getting linked with the likes of Atletico. And, you never know with this game, man. It's a mad game. It's crazy. You could have a big team come in and say, we like Andy Robertson. We think Andy Robertson could be a first-team option for us. And then at that point, if that's the case, well, Andy, if you're Andy Robertson, you're like, I'm not going to play at Liverpool, but at Atletico Madrid I could play at. At an AC Milan I could play at. I can get more first team football there. I think, there's a chance that could sway them, but I don't think so. If I was to predict, I actually think Andy Robertson, could be, could be a chance. Just a bit confusing to make Robbo vice captain and then have him second choice. I agree. I do agree. That's the only reason I think that he might not be the option. Look, I know we just brought in Marmardashvili, but let's be real, Alisson Becker is probably going to be our first team option for the foreseeable future. But long-term future, he might not be there. So do you give the vice captaincy to Alisson, and then a year from now maybe he moves on from the club? I don't think so. Or do you give it to Salah? In reality, vice captaincy I don't think is that big of a deal, because Virgil van Dijk's going to be playing most important games. But on that though, Maddie, that's a little bit of a reason for why I actually think Robbo might be a vice captain. In very important games where we need to get a win, I think Virgil van Dijk will be our starter, right? But in the games like a domestic league, a domestic cup match, Carabao Cup, FA Cup, or a Champions League game where maybe our second choice options should be the starters, Virgil wouldn't play that game, but the likelihood that Robbo would be the case. You know what I mean? So Maddie just said Salah all day. In those same instances, I could see maybe if we were going to give Virgil rest, we would also give Salah rest. But Robertson might play that game, and then he might just be the captain anyway. The likelihood that we're going to see games to where, yeah, you may be right. You know what I'm saying? Like, vice captaincy for me, it's one of those things that I don't think it's really that important in the long run to begin with. But also, too, when you take into consideration that if Virgil's going to be playing, Salah's probably going to be playing. And then Salah being vice captain really doesn't make any sense, because Virgil's not going to get subbed off, right? When Henderson was captain and Milner was vice captain, there was a chance that Milner would be coming on for Henderson, and then he would then take the armband. If Virgil's playing, he's not going to get subbed out. If he's starting, he's not going to get subbed out. It would be, if he's resting, I think that there's a likelihood that Robertson would be playing. And then if he's resting, there's a good chance Salah would be resting too. So it's those games where maybe we would be playing, our second best team, that I think Andy Robertson, would kind of come in as vice captain. But again, a concern I have with that is, like I said, in the next week and a half, if a team comes in and says, "Hey, Robertson, he's a player we're interested in, and we actually would like to see come to us and play regular first team football," that could be that could be a chance. I think I've covered everything I want to with Liverpool. I was going to move on to the Gyokeres to Arsenal topic next. If anyone has any topics, though, that pertain to Liverpool, let me know down below in the chat before I move on. Anything you guys want to talk about Liverpool related, I will for sure, cover before I move on to Arsenal. I just don't want to move on to the Gyokeres deal at Arsenal, and then we get a chat in, and I'm kind of circling back to the whole Liverpool situation. A lot is going on with Liverpool. I do think that so many people are putting too big of an emphasis over the fact that we lost to AC Milan in a preseason friendly. It's not that big of a deal, guys. I don't think it's not that big of a deal. I think if you're an AC Milan fan, maybe it's a little bit of a big deal because AC Milan haven't been playing that great recently. So, or over the past season, I don't think Milan have been that great. So for them, it's even if it was a friendly, even if it was, maybe, Liverpool filtered in some players that we wouldn't expect to see in the upcoming season, it's a good result for them. Can't hate on them. All right. I am momentarily going to move on. I just have to move my topic down here to Gyokeres has officially been signed to Arsenal Football Club. Kind of something that we've seen, has been in the rumor mill for quite some time. And earlier, obviously, this week we got the here we go from Fabrizio Romano that he'll be joining Arsenal. Like I said, it's been out there for quite some time, and I think the big shock for me is I don't think it's that big. It's that shocking, but he got the 14. He got the number 14, which we'll have to wait and see on Gyokeres. I think that this is a signing that Arsenal fans are trying to hype up, a lot. They were so critical of the fact that they're bringing in Noni Madueke, but now, Gyokeres is the best thing since sliced bread. Maybe he will come good, and a lot of Coventry City fans, said he did quite well during his time when he was playing in the Championship. So I don't want to hate on him too much. I think that there's a chance he obviously could come good for Arsenal. I do think, a big thing. I don't have the full grasp or list of everyone that's worn the number 14 for Arsenal since Henry, but I think it might be. It reminds me a little bit of when I think the first player to wear number 8 after Gerrard was Naby Keita, and he was one of the biggest flops I've ever seen play for Liverpool. But then now we have Szoboszlai, who's done all right, but I think that Liverpool fans are waiting for Szoboszlai to really come into his own, and a lot of us question whether or not he's, the signing of Wirtz might be, a little bit of something that maybe Liverpool are looking to move away from Szoboszlai in the future, but. I'm pretty sure Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang wore number 14 for Arsenal. I'm not that impressed with Arsenal's business in the transfer window. When you look at it comparatively to the likes of both Liverpool and Manchester City, who have made a similar amount of moves as Arsenal this transfer window, I think I haven't been impressed with the moves that Arsenal have made. Obviously, Noni Madueke is one that really comes to mind, but I actually think people are just have been so OD with the Noni Madueke situation. Like, I think Madueke is a player that actually can really come good. I don't understand Arsenal signing Madueke when he's typically played off of the right, but you have Saka. But I'm sure that there has to be something that they expect him to play off of the left, or maybe there's a chance that they're going to move Bukayo Saka. I think that's probably a lot more unlikely. Yeah, I think the Gyokeres signing for me, and I've put this out, on my YouTube, on my TikTok. I think that Gyokeres for me feels a little Darwin Nunez like, where player coming in from Portugal, striker, a lot of similarities there to where it's like he could underperform. I also question how many opportunities he's going to be getting at that striker position. I think for me, it's everyone has known Arsenal need to go out and get a striker this transfer window. That's been the topic for quite some time. And I think that they should have signed 2 to 3 strikers. 2 probably is more realistic. But now at this point, it seems as though Arsenal are just going to sign one striker this transfer window. They're going to put all their eggs into the Gyokeres basket. And I think that that's stupid. I think that could he come good? Yes. Could he flop? Absolutely. But just putting all of your eggs into the basket of Victor Gyokeres, and you can't tell me they aren't. The sheer fact that they're giving him the number 14 shirt shows that they're putting all of their eggs into the Victor Gyokeres basket. It's so clear and obvious what they're doing, and I'd like to know what everyone thinks down below in the chat, but we'll have to wait and see. I Am Batman says, I think Newcastle will refuse to sell Isak. I would have to disagree with you, bro. Just simply down to the fact that it's been reported that they're interested in bringing in Benjamin Sesko. I think that we talked about it a little bit earlier in the stream, that I think it's probably more likely that Newcastle won't sell Isak until they get a replacement option for him. I think that's more likely. I think there's obviously a chance that maybe they do refuse to sell Isak, but I think that they're not going to sell him until they get that option, that replacement option squared away. When that will be, we'll have to wait and see. I don't think so. I think if Isak doesn't want to stay at Newcastle and he has 3 years left on his deal, Newcastle's a club that's struggled with PSR for quite some time. They're I believe Saudi owned. I could be incorrect there, but they have owners with a ton of money, and I think I think that they haven't been able to spend that money, or they're going to just put themselves into a situation similar to the likes of Manchester City, to where it's like, hey, we have 115 charges on us for just trying to spend the money that we have. I Am Batman says, I hope you're right, but I just think PIF will be pissed. LOL. You'll have to let me know who or what PIF is, because I'm not 100. Is that their owners? It might be their owners, or excuse me if I'm being an idiot there, not knowing who PIF is, but I'm assuming you're probably talking about their owners or something like that. Hello, bro. What's going on? Frieza Cell. You have to let me know if I'm pronouncing that right. I apologize. I was just answering I Am Batman, and of course, I think I pronounced it something wrong again. Their owners. Yeah, I think they'll be pissed, and I understand to a certain extent why they would be pissed, but this is football. I think public investment fund. Thank you. I appreciate it, man. I think that this is football, man. Like, I think the unfortunate reality is, and I was kind of talking about it a little bit earlier in the stream, but like, I think a lot of people don't really realize the full extent of how much of a pull the big six clubs have on players. Like, and another thing too, like I know some people probably, some people watching might be from England or Europe or anything like that. I think that a big part of it is like it's less likely that people want to live in Newcastle. Granted, I don't know if Liverpool isn't like, oh, we're going to live, in London. I think that the London thing is a really really big aspect. Quite often that like you see these players. That's why Arsenal and Chelsea have always had players go back and forth in transfers. Is that players want to like stay in London, and the two biggest London teams are Chelsea and Arsenal, and then obviously Tottenham would be number third. Frieza Cali said, "For me, Isak will come to Liverpool. Newcastle journalist reports are worded like to show that Newcastle is open to selling Isak. Hence, we are getting news of Newcastle are trying to buy Sesko Vissa. Once Liverpool sells Diaz, I think Liverpool will send their first bid, which will be a £120 million one." I don't disagree with you. I don't disagree with you. Yeah, I think I do believe he'll come to Liverpool. There's a chance that the Premier League starts in 2 weeks. I think that there's a chance that this will be dragged out for a couple weeks. We have 2 weeks till the opening game on Friday, but then even maybe the transfer will happen after that. We'll see. I think this is kind of new for Newcastle. I think Newcastle were banking on him staying, and I think Newcastle will kind of throw a little bit of a fit until they can definitely know, hey, all right, we have a replacement. Here it is. My voice just cracked terribly there. We have a replacement. Here it is. All right, what's the price that Liverpool are going to come into? I am Batman said, Isak, Salah, Verts, Gakpo, Mac would be strong. And you just named off like Isak, Salah, Verts, Gakpo, Mac, but then you take into consideration Ekatike coming in as well. We were talking about earlier in the stream, there's a rumor that Rodrigo could be an option for Liverpool in the future. So I definitely agree. All of them so strong. And then we were talking about a little bit earlier in the stream that Liverpool definitely need to sign another center back. I forget who it was. Someone let me know. I'm just scrolling up to see who let me know that Gomez got hurt today. LFC 20 was the one who let me know that Joe Gomez got injured today. We'll have to see. That 16-year-old looks good. That Rio, right, is the 16-year-old you're talking about? I can't pronounce his last name. I know I probably said it like a dozen times this stream, but I'm so bad at pronunciation, especially when it comes to, harder last names, harder first names. That Rio kid does look good. But, again, and that's, going back to the Harvey Elliott situation, that I wonder what his future is going to look like at Liverpool, because there's so many options for Liverpool, and Harvey Elliott's a really, really good player that deserves to play, regular recurring first team football. I don't think he can get that currently at Liverpool, so we'll have to see, what the future looks like for him. I would love to keep him, but it goes back to kind of similar to what I was talking about earlier with the Luis Diaz situation. I think given the signings that we've made so far this transfer window, I genuinely believe that the likes of Slot and the coaches at Liverpool have basically said, hey, we cannot guarantee you first team football regularly recurring, you'll start every single game. Like I just don't think it's likely that that could happen. I think Ekatike is an option that Liverpool might look to use off of the left. Obviously, I know he's played as a center forward. I think that is but we also too, like, I think a lot of people forget, like, Cody Gakpo was playing great for us at the end of last season. He was playing so good for us. Like, Gakpo, for a while there, we were trying to, like, figure out if him or Nunez was a better striker option, and we were all over the place, if we're being real. Like, there was no there was no clear cut, because I think that they both struggled playing as a striker. But then once we started to give some time to Cody Gakpo off of the left, he really started to compete with Diaz, and that's been something we've seen for quite some time. Yeah, I tried to move on to Arsenal a little bit, but it came back to Liverpool. That's all right. Obviously, I'm a Liverpool fan. I know the thumbnail was Liverpool related. I expect, and honestly and truthfully, Liverpool have just been so exciting this transfer window. It's like it's gotten hard to not talk about Liverpool and the topics surrounding them. I do hope that we get another center back option coming in for us, but I am Batman. I have a feeling Nunez will stay. I kind of agree, bro. But the thing is, with that, Nunez, Nunez, was left out of the squad apparently today, and I think that's a pretty telling sign that he could be leaving. Now, with that being said, I saw reports that Slot addressed the Luis Diaz situation, that he could be leaving, but I don't believe he addressed anything surrounding Darwin Nunez. So there's a chance that maybe it's in its infancy, but who knows. Rocco Jerem said, "I don't think so, J Hair. LOL. You have to let me know what I don't think so, J Hair. Were you talking about the Nunez thing? Let me know down below." Frieza Cell said, "Liverpool weakness this upcoming season will be the defense. If they don't bring at least two center backs, because for me, Joe Gomez ain't him anymore. He's injured every time. He's unreliable." Yeah, man, I definitely agree with you, bro. I think that I think Joe Gomez, even when he is fit, there's just such like, he makes far too many stupid mistakes. I think it was in the Europa League a season or two ago, that season we were in the Europa League, he made a couple bad mistakes, or maybe it was even Champions League, and I'm forgetting. I remember the game that it was just like, it was a Joe Gomez disaster class. I like Gomez. I don't want to see him leave, but yeah, I do think we need to bring in a center back, and hopefully it's Mark Gahey. That would be my choice. Slot said Nunez was injured. Thank you, I am Batman. I appreciate that, because I was a little concerned about that, but I do kind of agree that I could see Nunez staying, and I've seen it. I talked about it a little bit earlier in the stream, that I think he'll be maybe an option coming off of the bench. I think he has to earn a starting spot. But, I mean, yeah. Al Hilal are reportedly considering trying to send a bid in for Nunez, so I think he's gone. Diaz will be gone to Bayern. Yeah, I do think that the Diaz situation is done. I think Bayern Munich, I think it will probably be like a between 70 to 80 million for Luis Diaz, which for a 28-year-old, we got to cash in on that. And hope he does great. But I have no animosity towards him or anything like that. But I think he can't get first team football. The Al Hilal situation with Nunez, it's been rumored. I've seen that Saudi have come in for him a lot. We'll have to wait and see on that. The Saudi thing, I think, comes down to, like, these guys are still, like, making millions of pounds, millions of dollars in Europe. So we'll see. Roko Jerem said, "Liverpool will not get that guy. I promise you. I promise you that. Let's see, because they haven't sell any players yet, and if they sell before August 12th, I think they will surely get him, because right now, not sure. Don't be happy yet, bro. That demand is too much. 150 million. I know, man, but he seems to be wanting out at Newcastle, and once he said he wanted out at Newcastle, We saw Saudi Arabia coming in, basically trying to get him to come over there, but it doesn't seem like he wants to go there, and it seems like he wants Liverpool. 150 million is insane, but I think there's a chance. Edmund Sarpong said Liverpool will bring in Isak, Gehi, Leone, and a left winger. So most of that, Edmund, I do kind of agree with. I think that the left winger situation is interesting because I wonder if they're going to try to play Ekatike off the left. And then, like I said, I think Gakpo was playing really, really well towards the end of the last season. And, I think that maybe that, both the likes of Ekatike and Gakpo will have to compete off of that left wing. I Am Batman said, Diaz will be a loss. He always gives his all. That's one thing I loved about him, man. Always worked his ass off. Like embodied like work ethic at Liverpool. You'd see the guy running for balls where it's like he might not even keep that ball in play, but he was running for it. I think the only criticism that you could give towards Luis Diaz, and I don't think it's a really, really gig criticism, but I think he just doesn't have the output that we've seen from the likes of Mo Salah and then even Sadio Mane. God rest his soul, Diogo Jota was an output machine, always scoring goals. Diaz would score goals, would create them as well, but I just don't think it was at the level of, like, let's say, a Salah, Mane, Jota, Roberto Firmino, those types of players. And I think he's getting a little older, so I think that may have been a concern as well. Frieza Cell said there's a big chance that tomorrow we will get the news that Diaz is sold to Bayern, bro. Since Liverpool played today, that's why they haven't got any transfer news. Yeah, I kind of agree. I think that we're not going to get Arne Slot coming out and saying, hey, he wasn't featured because, his future is in doubts. But I do think I kind of agree with you when managers come out and say that, they're probably gone. I think it's almost probably official. Usually it will be masked behind, especially in preseason, an injury. Oh, they picked up a knock in training. That was what we saw with Isak, that he wasn't featuring for Newcastle because, he picked up a knock in training. When in reality now, I think that doesn't seem like that's that much of the case. Rocco Jerem said, I think if Bayern Munich get Diaz, that will be the end of the window. End of the window for who, says Frieza Cell. Rocco said, not now because Bayern Munich are looking for other options, LOL. Yeah, I'd like to know, Rocco, were you saying if Bayern get Diaz, that will be the end of the window for Liverpool or the end of the window for Bayern Munich? Let me know down below in the chat. I'd be interested to hear what you guys say about that, because I don't think if Diaz leaves, I don't think that's the end of the window for Liverpool. I think if he was to stay, if Darwin Nunez was to stay, I think that maybe it could be the end of the window. But if Luis Diaz is leaving, I think we're certainly at the very least probably going to try to pick up another forward option, and especially if Diaz and Nunez leave, I think that there's a real likelihood that we look to bring in another option in that front three. I definitely, it'll be interesting. It'll be certainly interesting to see the future of a lot of these guys. I'm Batman. Liverpool have a ton of business to do. I agree. You are on Twitter, bro? Yeah, if you look, it was just on screen. If you look at the top right, I got my socials kind of feeding through. I'm a little behind, but there was my TikTok. My Twitter popped up there as well. Definitely don't forget to subscribe, any of you guys in the chat watching and stuff like that. For sure subscribe on YouTube, but follow me on my other socials as well. Truthfully, not as active on Twitter as I would like to be, but I'm definitely I definitely try to put a lot of my TikToks out on there, and I'm on TikTok as well. But yeah, I Am Batman said Liverpool have a ton of business to do. I agree, bro. I definitely agree with you. I think that Especially, I won't be surprised, dude, if like we bring in Isak and Gahey. I think that those are the two that Liverpool are going to try. I won't be surprised if we bring those two in, and then not even just touching on the players that could be out the door. I think if we bring those two in, I think that that could probably be the end of the potentially could be the end of the transfer window for Liverpool. Maybe not, but we have key areas where I really believe Liverpool need to make changes. Preseason said on Twitter a few days ago, Fabrizio Romano said Malik Fofana was Bayern Munich's second choice if Diaz doesn't happen, but today we have got news that Everton are in advanced talks for Malik Fofana. With that going into the Luis Diaz thing, I think that for me that means that there's it's probable that the Luis Diaz to Bayern Munich thing could be just like completely done at that point. To be honest with you, I think it's definitely likely, so to speak. Yeah, we'll have to wait and see though. I think that once you get the likes of Arne Slot coming out and saying that about Diaz, I think it's you start to think it's probably there. I'm optimistic that we get Isak. I'm pretty optimistic too, dude. I can't lie. I'm pretty optimistic as well, man. I think the fact that he's made it's been public that he wants to leave Newcastle and reportedly is like, I don't want to go to Saudi. And on top of that, what makes me optimistic about it, we haven't heard any reports of other clubs being interested or making advanced talks with Isak. It's only been Liverpool. It's only been Liverpool that are the club that like really have been interested in him. So we'll have to see. Yeah, it's done in my opinion. Luis Diaz has pushed for it, and I don't blame Diaz because Bayern are offering him higher wages for sure. And like I said earlier in the stream, I don't know if he's going to be able to get for sure first team football. And I think that like I said, Ekitike could obviously play as a striker, but he could play off of the left. Gakpo really was going to compete with Diaz, even if we didn't even bring in anyone. But Willie Boy 92. Do you see us winning the EPL? Because I feel like we are weak at the back. Yeah, I do see us winning the Premier League. Let me just start there. I do definitely believe that we will win the Premier League. But having said that, I completely agree with you on the concerns for us at the back. I completely agree with you. I think that, especially with selling Jarell Quansah, and, in the short term, Joe Gomez isn't the answer. If we pick up an injury to Virgil or Konate, are we really that confident with Joe Gomez at the back? I'm not. I know a lot of Liverpool fans share that sentiment. I think we need to bring in the likes of Mark Gahey, and that's for the short term. If we're looking long term, I even think that we need to bring in a center back because, the far future of Ibrahima Konate is kind of up in the air. Rocco said, Diaz will not leave this summer or go to Saudi. Better because the amount you are requesting for is too much. That's why Bayern Munich looking for other options. I don't agree, man. I think that with Arne Slot coming out and saying that his future is up in the air today, I think that means, for me, bro, and respectfully, I would disagree. I think that means he's probably going to be leaving. Frieza said, if we get Gahey and one other center back, I think we will win the Premier League. Yeah, we have to get one center back. And whether that's Gahey or someone else, we definitely have to get one center back. And then I kind of agree, unless there's an option, a younger option that we would look into. But, that apparently Joe Gomez picked up an injury today. The extent of that injury, I think, is probably, we really need to look into that because how long is Joe Gomez going to be out for? Is he going to be out for months at a time? Is he going to be out for just a little bit? That I'm interested about. You know, well, we'll have to see it. You know, if we hypothetically, let's say he's back in a month, but we signed Gahey. If our center back options are Virgil van Dijk, Konate, Mark Gahey, and Joe Gomez, I feel very confident. But if he's going to be injured for quite some time, which I haven't looked into it yet, admittedly, if he's going to be injured for quite some time, I think we need to sign Gahey and one other one. Rocco said, Bayern looking for Lookman, Trossard, and other options, so it's hard. Yeah, I like I said, man, I'll just be honest with you. I think that Slot isn't going to come out and say that we left Diaz out because it looks like he's going to leave, unless he's probably going to leave. It's just that's just how I look at it. We are apparently interested in a young center back. His name is Charlie Cresswell. He has potential and his height is really tall. Let me look into this guy. Charlie Cresswell. Okay. Playing in France. He's playing for Toulouse. Came up through the Leeds Academy. Yeah, that's really, really interesting. Yeah. How tall is he? 6'3". Yeah, it's kind of clear. I've noticed that Liverpool are just like so that like we're not bringing in any short center backs. They got to be tall for us to keep them. But yeah, that's interesting. Let me know if you guys have any other topics you want me to cover before I end the stream. Probably going to be ending the stream here in just a few minutes. Either going to put out another YouTube video, either this afternoon, evening, or maybe tomorrow. Put out a little longer form. If you're in the chat, please make sure to subscribe. Follow me on all my socials. They're linked in the description. They're up top. Gahey will be an exception. What do you mean by that? Is he not as tall as the rest of them? I thought Mark Gahey was a pretty big guy. 6'2". I'm 5'10", so if you're 6'1" and above, you're tall to me. Shout out all my short kings in the chat. Yeah, I thought Mark Gahey was pretty tall. But let me know if you guys have anything else you want to talk about. I keep the stream going. It looks like we've lost a few people, but if you have anything you want, I'm down to chat. He's 182 centimeters. Frieza, you must not know that I am an American. 182 meters. We do feet and inches over here. My foolish American brain is having trouble processing that. Gahey. Mark Gahey. His height is 6 foot. 1.82 meters. That's what it is. Okay. Yeah, 6 foot. That's not that short, though. How tall is Ibrahima Konate? Ibo Konate is 6'4". Damn. 6'4". My gosh, Ibu. Yeah. You know what, Frieza? You're right. That he does change that a little bit for us. That that is he is Gahey would be an exception. Gahey would be an exception at either 5'11" or 6 foot, given that we just have two trees. That's why they win headers all the time. Honestly, both Konate and Van Dijk. They I've always wondered why they win so many headers on corners and stuff like that. It's because they're gargantuan. That's insane. But yeah, let me know what you guys have to say in the chat. Any other topics? Any other it doesn't have to be Liverpool related. I obviously love if it's Liverpool related. Could be Arsenal related, Chelsea related, United related. Anything of the sort, I'll cover it. I could care less. I shouldn't say I could care less. I do care. I care what you guys are interested into. I care what you have to say. All of that. Any topics that you guys want to know about and stuff, let me know. Let me know. Freeza Cell said, Gahey is a really, really good center back. And his only negative is his aerial duels, for sure. And that makes sense, given that he's 6 foot. For some reason, he's just never looked that short to me. Obviously, for me, Virgil has always looked really, really tall. But, I like, the likes of Gahey, obviously, I'm not watching him as much as I might be watching Virgil or anything like that. But, Alright, I'm not seeing any other topics or anything like that. So I might be hopping off here. Let me know if you guys have anything else you're interested in. Thank you all. I'll give a shout out to some of the guys. Ashley said, I miss Fabinho. I know you do, Ashley. Give a shout out to some of the people that were with us. Ashley Woods, LFC20. Who else do we got here? Bad One, shout out to you. C15 Rise. Maddie, I Am Batman. Of course, Freeza Cell. Thank you for being with us, dude. Love what you've contributed here to the chat. Rocco, shout out to you as well. Edmund, shout out to you. Willie Boy, shout out to you. I'm hoping Ekitike will be good. He has that potential of being a world-class striker. I'm so interested to see how we use him, dude. I'm so interested to see how we use him. Because, honestly and truthfully, like, I'm so, like, as soon as we signed him, I thought to myself, there is no way we are going to sign Ekitike and still be interested in Isak. Things change, obviously. I wouldn't be surprised if he is a left wing option for us as well, but we'll have to see. But thank you, Freeza Cell. I appreciate it, bro. All right, guys, I'm going to hop off here. Look out for another video coming sometime this weekend, whether it be later today, tomorrow. Willie Boy, do you think Isak will gel with Ekitike? I hope so. I hope Isak will gel with everyone. And I just hope we get that across the line, man. I really do. I really just hope we get that across the line. I don't know if we bring in him, the goal will be to play with two strikers. I'm not sure, but I really hope they gel together. We'll have to wait and see. You know what I mean? Like it's an interesting one. I don't even know if Liverpool thought that they could bring in Alexander Isak, because as soon as we brought in Ekitike, I thought that was it. Frieza, all right, bro. Have a good day. Had a great time chatting. I'll look forward to the next stream. Absolutely, brother. Thank you for your contribution, Willie Boy. Thank you as well. Thanks everyone who joined us. I'll see you guys on the next stream. Look out for a video coming sometime this weekend. I'm out of here. Peace.